Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 204.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's Cashflow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I am your host, Jay Massey, and as you know, we have been doing an entire series on individuals who are out there in the marketplace. Now, you guys, I know when I first got started, one of the things that I was thinking was, man, if I could just get to $100,000 a year. As you know, we've went out there to find individuals who have been able to figure out ways to create $100,000 of value in 30 days, not 365 days, but 30 days, 10 times faster than what you may be thinking. And we're just asking them, how'd you do it? How did it happen? And most importantly, do you think other people can still do this very same thing today? And today's guest has been on the show before. He is none other than Joe Fairless on episode 104. If you wanted to hear more about his background and all of the things of what he's been through, you have the ability to go back, check out episode number 104, and you'll be able to catch up on that. But today, we're going to hear in his own words, how on earth does anyone, any human being dare go out there to create $100,000 of value inside of 30 days. We're going to hear how he did it. He's going to break it down for us, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So help me welcome back Joe Fairless. Joe, you there?
I'm here. Thanks a lot, Jay, for that wonderful introduction. I'm pumped up.
That's good. That's good. $100,000 would do that to you. So for those who may not have, heard you before on the prior episode, tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we're going to jump straight into how on earth you go out there to create such massive value in such a short period of time.
Yeah, well, really quickly for some context, I am from Texas. I moved from Texas to New York City once I graduated college. I went to Texas Tech. I was an advertising major, and then I worked in the ad industry. And for anyone familiar with marketing, advertising, you probably know that you don't make much, if anything, in that industry. And so I worked my way up the corporate ladder in advertising, and as I was working my way up, I started studying real estate, and that's whenever I started buying single-family homes. And I bought them in Texas, even though I was living in New York City. I started just acquiring them. Ended up getting 4, and then I realized that I was done with advertising, wasn't fulfilling anymore. But once I left advertising, I didn't have a paycheck, so I couldn't get approved for any mortgages, and I couldn't buy anything on my own. That's whenever I learned how to raise money from investors and how to buy apartment communities together and share in the profits, which is how I accomplished the 100K mark that around your episode. So that is what I've been up to for the last two and a half years. And my company's Fairless Investing. I closed on my first deal. I've done 2 syndicated deals since I've been doing this full time. My first one was 168 units, and I believe we probably talked about that on the in our first conversation. And then that increased my net worth over $100,000. And then I actually just closed on a 250 unit deal this time last week. And that is in Houston, Texas. The first one was in Cincinnati. This one last week was in Houston. And then that definitely increased my net worth more than $100,000. So, it's a really good business model, and I'm excited to talk about it.
If it didn't create $100,000 of value, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You're doing it wrong. So let's break this down just for a little moment. So the industry, it sounds like you were able to do this in, is real estate. Yes?
That's correct.
Now, guys, don't think that the only way you can do this is inside of real estate. If you've listened to some of the other episodes in this series, you know that we've spoken to individuals outside of the real estate realm who've been able to do this as well. But I would say that, there's probably, would you say, Joe, that we have an unfair advantage in the real estate arena, being able to do something, create that much value in such a short period of time?
Create that much value and keep the money because of tax benefits.
Okay, now we don't want to make everything else sound like inferior to real estate, but it probably is. But that's okay. So tell us a little bit, how do you go from, ad guy to you? At the end of the day, there's a lot of skill sets that go involved. Would you say that is this, I guess, something that anyone could do?
Well, anybody can do it, assuming that they apply the gifts that they have. And as you know, we're all uniquely talented, and we all have certain gifts and things that we're really good at and we enjoy. What I'd say is that, I think what it boils down to is that we're all in sales and marketing, whether we want to think that or not. We're in sales and marketing.
Agreed.
And so with my background I was the youngest vice president of a New York City advertising agency. I climbed my way up from a junior project manager to that. And with that experience, I was able to apply that, the things I learned working with Microsoft, T-Mobile, Pepsi, clients like that, and as well as startups, and apply that towards my entrepreneurship stuff. So I think that is one of the keys as far as what I took from the advertising industry. And as far as anybody, anybody can. But there's certain things that you got to do to prepare yourself. I think first is identify what you really enjoy doing. Because what you enjoy doing is what you'll be good at, therefore what you'll excel in. And then the second is to get the foundational knowledge, read a lot of books, listen to podcasts like yours, and kind of become educated. And then the third is to identify how much time are you willing to put towards it, because we all have time. It's just how we prioritize the time and where we choose to spend it.
So you're telling me then this isn't going to happen overnight?
Not for me. It didn't for me. Maybe, it sounds like some of your other, I want to listen to some of your other guests. It sounds like I might be in the wrong industry. I don't know. But it didn't happen overnight, but I expected it to. And I think there's some ignorance some healthy ignorance that needs to take place whenever you're an entrepreneur. Because if you expect it to take a very long time, then you might approach it differently, and you might not have the same drive and determination, as compared to if you have the kind of the blissful ignorance of, well, this could happen tomorrow, and you keep pushing and pushing and pushing. So I think there's a healthy balance with that.
Indeed. I like what you said about healthy ignorance. That's for sure. Because if I knew a lot that I know now of the things that we would have had to go through, I might not have ever started.
Oh yeah, yeah. Agreed. If I could see myself, after I left advertising, just blowing through all my savings, like literally gone. And I hadn't done my first deal, and I hadn't purchased more than a single family home before. And now I've got this 168 unit at the time under contract. And I'm raising money for the first time. I never raised a penny before, and my bank account's dwindling. I would have been like, nope, no, I'll go ahead and stick with the cushy advertising job, executive job, and maybe I'll try this later whenever I can't predict the future.
Yeah, right. So, well, then you could almost say to some level that it has taken you a number of years to be able to do that, to make that happen, because you're speaking about a lot of skill sets and things that you were able to apply that were gained over time that then ultimately resulted in this amount of value creation.
Yeah, it has. It's taken me. I mean, I've been on my own as an entrepreneur. I mean, I went from an advertising agency, being a vice president, to a real estate investor raising money doing syndicated multifamily deals. A completely different industry. Now, the common theme is marketing and sales, but it's really a different industry. So there's a major perception shift that I needed to make my friends aware of about who I am and what I stand for whenever I'm raising money, because previously they knew kind of about my advertising experience. So that in of itself was a challenge. But yeah, it's it takes time, and I saw firsthand, the more time and the more effort you put into it, the more and quicker you're rewarded on the second deal. My first deal, I raised over $1 million to buy the 168 unit, and it took me about 120 days to do that. And it was 90 to 120 days to do that. And this second deal I closed on last Wednesday, I raised 1.1 million with a partner, and we did it in under 2 months, so under 60 days. And some of it was from people who listened to my podcast. And just kind of heard me talking about it. I wasn't promoting it or soliciting, but they heard me talking about it, and they reached out to me, and so once I started building the track record, and just quite frankly, putting in time, and a concerted effort on a daily basis. My podcast comes out every day. And whenever I would get on the phone with some of the listeners who ended up investing with me, they'd be like, "Oh, I feel like I already know you. I feel like we've already had multiple conversations. I know you get this, Jay, because you're out there way more than I am. I know people come up to you and be like, I feel like I know you. I feel like we've had so many conversations, and that's what the time takes. That's because it takes time to build a relationship. It takes a lot of time, and it's something that I've seen, that it appears from the outside in. Wow, 2 years, and you did a 168 unit and a 250 unit. Wow, that just it's a daily, hourly, every minute within those 2 years, putting in some work.
Indeed, and yes, you are correct. There have been a number of listeners, for those of you internationally and nationally, who are actually actively participating in some of the projects that we're doing. I think it's necessary to some degree, but I think you also hit on this other subject, two of them, in fact. I find that there are a number of investors or a number of people, would-be real estate entrepreneurs, who say things to me like, Jay, I just want to do real estate. I don't want to do this sales and marketing stuff. And I think they shoot themselves in the foot with that attitude, and I would love to hear your opinion on that.
Well, I think you're right if they are wanting to. Well, I guess in my opinion, it all boils down to your goals and how you want to spend your time. Because really, if you want to do it full time, then you've got to put in a lot of work. You've got to put in a lot of effort. And one thing I remember whenever I was getting started, I didn't want to buy homes that needed any work. I was like, I just want to kind of buy properties that are move-in ready. There's equity in the deal, and they cash flow from day one. The more I interviewed people, the more I realized.
I want to know how that went.
Yeah, well, yeah. Fortunately, I was buying in 2009 in Dallas-Fort Worth, so I did okay. But I realized that, wow, I'm missing out on all this potential profit by buying properties that are distressed, fixing them up, and then realizing the profits. And I initially took that same mentality with apartments, where I was like, I just buy a cat. What are they talking about, value add apartment? What do you mean? I just want to buy something that's cash flowing, and then we'll make some money. But the more I got into it, the more I realized that the real wealth creation is identifying opportunities like you're so good at, where you can add value. and then create that value and then cash in on the value.
Well, I think we use our strengths to our advantage. I mean, you and I both know that typically in the real estate game, the individuals are more senior, more our senior than normal. And when we can use our youth and energy to our advantage, we might as well add value, take something that's broken and fix it. And that becomes a lot of fun, a lot of job creation. You get to play a really big change in that particular zip code or marketplace. So it's something that I know we've enjoyed doing, and it sounds like you're doing the same thing. There's one other thing that I've run into that I think you hit on, that it's a part of this component. I know many of us, the idea of doing, $100,000, first of all, ever, let alone in a 30-day period, when that comes to your mind, I guess, how necessary or would you say relationships are, or building that database?
Well, I didn't realize the importance of building a database, and now I do. Now that I'm out, 2 years on my own, the relationships, it's the number one most important thing, and the way to build the relationships is to have time with somebody. That's why if you're looking to get out on your own with your own business, or if you're just looking to kind of build your real estate business or any type of business, then it's important to be front and center, because the only way you can shorten the amount of time it takes to build a relationship is by doing it in shorter, faster bursts of exposure. So if we've known each other for a year, but we only talk to each other once a month, then I think we can get to know somebody just as well, if not better, if we talk to somebody 12 times within 20 days. And I'm using that as a gross example, but you get to really get a sense of who they are. So when you're looking at relationships and building relationships for your business, then if you don't have a lot of long-term, long-lasting relationships with a lot of people, that's okay. But it's important to have a marketing machine where you are talking to people on a regular, consistent basis. And you can do that through email, blogs, podcasting like you and I do, or other ways. But really establishing that is going to be critical.
Agreed, 1,000%. So it sounds like it. I had this question from a person, or at least this conception, that when you mention this process of raising capital, there's not like a little secret book that you and I pass back and forth of just a secret store or stash of money that we just call and say, hey, I need money. That doesn't exist, right?
Well, I burned the phone number that you gave me, so I don't have that anymore.
Well, good. I'm just trying to make the point of how the relationships are personal. And it's personal to the point to where you have to be the one to go out there and build them. Because occasionally I get the question, hey, Jay, can you just introduce me to someone who'll give me the money? And won't they just write a check? I'm like, that's not quite how it works. And I'm just curious if that's been the same for you.
Yeah. It's all the relationship, all the people who have invested in my deals, they have known me throughout life, in different circumstances. So if you're just getting into real estate, or if you're trying to raise money for a home that you're flipping, or whatever apartment community that you're syndicating, then what I recommend doing is identifying all the different networks that you're a part of, and then writing out all the people in those networks. And the goal is to get one person from each of the networks to say, yes, I'm interested. Then you can name check, assuming they're okay with it. You can name check them. Well, Jay's interested. And whenever I was talking to Jay, he mentioned, or I mentioned him. Yeah, you would be a good person to speak to as well. And that instantly opens the door, and creates more interest with the next person. And if without that, I would say, think about, from my marketing days, I know the number one way of driving purchase intent. And it's not TV, it's not radio, it's not podcasting, it's recommendations from a trusted source. So if you go through friends and you are a trusted source to them, then they will recommend you. And that's the way it works. That's why probably if somebody does come to you in that scenario and they say, hey, I've got this good deal, can't you just introduce me to this person? If it is a good deal and you qualify it and you stand behind it, then when they meet this other person, assuming that you're in it as well, and I'm just using a hypothetical scenario, assuming you're in the deal as well, Jay, then I imagine it's going to be an easier conversation versus just some a random person coming to you and saying, can you make an introduction? And it's like, well, you can't just cut the check that way.
Right. It's just the expectation that somehow that like there's a person who's just handing out money and all you got to do is have one conversation with them. There's still a bit of relationship component that's required. Now, most of us have heard about, books like the 7 Habits of Successful People. And I'm sure you've got certain daily habits that helped you to be able to, again, create this much value. Can you share with us some of those habits? So maybe there's something that someone's not doing, or they're doing it in a completely different way, or something that they can glean from what you do, how you prepare you to go out there and be the world changer and creator that you are, so that we can create more of them.
Yeah, I'd say 3 things. One is I always start my day with something positive. I will never, ever,
so
ever.
The news isn't first?
Ever watch the news in the morning. I don't watch the news, period.
Right.
So that's the first thing. And by positive, I mean it could be something from a book I'm reading. I watch a lot of Les Brown. I watch a lot of Tony Robbins. Those are actually my 2 favorite guys to just watch on YouTube. Just Google Les Brown or Tony Robbins. So
you do realize though that your Facebook news feed is almost as good as the news at this point. I mean,
I know
it's becoming like that anyway.
I know. Well, yeah, I don't do the Facebook thing either in the mornings. The second thing is I start my morning with 1 liter of water with wheatgrass, with a scoop of wheatgrass in it. So I down that,
different.
yeah, and basically I'm alkalizing my body, getting any acidic stuff out of it, or at least to a healthy balance. You have to have some acid in your body, but I alkalize my body. And I super hydrate in the morning. 1 liter. I have a big old. It's actually right in front of me. It's a big pink cup that I use, and I just get the scoop. I get the wheatgrass from GNC. It's like $20 for a case that lasts you a month. I used to do the Tony Robbins green drink, which is a powder. It lasts 60 days, but it's like $60, and you're supposed to do it like 3 times a day, and it's a smaller scoop. So I switched to this GNC. It's really inexpensive, and it does the trick for me. And then the third thing I'd say from a goal and action oriented standpoint, every month I identify 5 to 6 things I want to have accomplished by the end of the month. And that just drives what I do during the days. If I am kind of have some downtime and I'm like, well, what should I be doing? Well, I'm supposed to be, supposed to be completing a book this month, and that's the book. Or I'm supposed to be selling this property. And so I'll put more time towards that. So from a high level, it helps me stay focused and stay on track. And I actually have a whiteboard on my wall, and you can buy it off of Amazon. It's just like sticks on your wall. It's like $20. And it's just a dry erase whiteboard, and I write that, and I just I have a box next to each of the goals, and I just check it off once it's done, and then at the end of the month, I see if I've accomplished all the goals for the month.
I've actually been looking for a whiteboard
Yeah.
I like the idea. I like the idea. As I look around my office, I'm like, which kid's picture is going to get
Oh
moved?
no.
I mean, that's basic. I've got photos and pictures of them everywhere, but I got no whiteboard, and I'm just like, what am I going to do? Whose heart am I going to break now? I'm just kidding. But you get my point. You get my point. A whiteboard is definitely something to be able to put together. So, let's talk a second about this idea of setting goals and these whiteboards. So, because obviously you set goals and you work towards them, or you wouldn't be able to be in the position to create that kind of value. When you did you grow up? Is this something, a habit that you got from kindergarten? Did mom teach it to you? Where did this concept of being able to not only just set the goal, but to actually attain the goal come from? Okay. Now, I've introduced you to a number of different people, and you've heard some things that are similar, and you're probably hearing some more things that are similar, and you'll hear some more as the episode continues. Are you moving at the speed of instruction and taking notes on these things? Because it's in those similarities where your clues lie. You've been wondering, what's it going to take for me to do something special in my industry? How am I going to go out there and become that breakout hit? What can I do to make that huge difference for myself and my family and in our business? And maybe even just simply, how on earth do I get out of the job? There's so many things that I think you're gaining. I just want to make sure that you take a moment, write them down. And then I'm concerned that if I don't say, go write them down, you just might not do it. Nonetheless, I'm saying it. Write them down. Take a moment, hit pause, write it down. It's worth it, because that written down information is something that you're more likely to take action on in the future. You know it. I know it. I'm just trying to get you to go do it. Here's something else you should do. Go send a text message to 72000. Keyword is book, and you'll get a copy of Cashflow Diary, 10 Steps to Creating Wealth in Any Economy, or just go over to cashflowdiary.com/free book. Enough of that. Let's get back to Joe.
I think I was born with the skill set or the characteristic or the trait of just having ridiculous tunnel vision and determination towards whatever I'm focused on. But the downside to that is, if I'm not focused or if I'm not into something, then I completely forsake it. It's done. Like I just don't pay attention to it. So there is a downside, but the upside to it is that I know it's going to be done, because it's already done. Whenever I commit to something, I know it's going to be done. It might not be within the same time frame that I want, because I don't want to kind of come off as, oh wow, if it's done, then I know it's going to be done by this day. Sometimes it's not done within the time frame, or sometimes it evolves to something else that is even better. But I know, as long as I stay true to, I go into it with a pure heart and pure intentions, and I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, which is what I found is loving and serving millions of people. Then, in helping them with financial and professional success, then I know it's going to be done. So I'll give you an example from earlier. Whenever I was younger, I wanted to play college football. My high school team, we won the state championship in Texas, and I wanted to go on, but nobody was recruiting me, and I was just too slow to play receiver. Had good hands, but was way too slow to play receiver for Division I, Division II. And so I tried to walk on at Blinn Junior College, which is in Brenham, Texas, and I didn't make the team. So I trained every morning at 6 a.m. Over that off season, and then I went and I transferred to another school, Mary Hardin Baylor in Belton, Texas, and I ended up making the team and played and scored a touchdown. And then once I got a season under my belt, I was like, okay, this isn't for me anymore. Got it out of my system, and I went to Texas Tech and just enjoyed it and graduated from Texas Tech. But that's always been my mentality. And I think for anyone listening, how we can, if it's not something that comes natural, that just like dogged determination about something that you're focused on, then I think anybody and everybody has it in them. It's just a matter of does life have to create a circumstance where you have to rise above, or can you artificially create that circumstance for yourself and rise above without the sky falling in on your world?
So this then brings up a really good question. How do you feel if or when someone says, well, Joe, you just got lucky?
Yeah, well, I'd say they're not going to be a successful person if they say that. So I know a lot about them if they say that. But at the same time, I think there's some truth to that, because I think there's it's probably about, and I'm just making this up on the fly based on what I think, but I'd say it's probably about 80% hard work, maybe 10%. Well, I'd say it's 80% psychology, and then maybe 15% just right place at the right time, and then the remaining percent, what did I say, 80, 15, so 5% just straight luck, where it's like, all right, you just happen to be born in an era where you can do deal syndication. You happen to be born with, from a family that allowed you to go to college, even though I had student loans. So I mean, I'd say there is a luck component to it, but if you attribute the majority of somebody's success to luck, then it's ignorant. It's very ignorant. I'd say the success, at least every successful person I know, personally, it's not luck primarily. It is concerted, focused effort, accomplishing something that they feel like they're meant to be doing at that time.
Yeah, agreed. Now, you mentioned the 80% psychology part. So let's talk about mindset while it's on the mind, so to speak. And what would you say? I mean, everybody's got varying mindsets around money. So having it, not having it, what we believe we can achieve financially. Is it mom's fault that I make money, or is it dad's fault? We've got all this stuff in our past. We have all of these associations with it. And I think over time that we change our association. So I'm curious to know if you had any specific challenges around the mindsets around wealth and money that you've had to deal with, having it, enjoying it, etc. And most importantly, what would you say money means to you?
Well, money means to me an opportunity to provide positive influence, number one. And so the mindset around money, if we truly believe that, and I think that it would be a very healthy perspective to have. If we truly believe that, then what we'll do is we'll maximize the amount of opportunities for us to make money, to allow us to have more positive influence on others around us. Create that ripple effect. And I think I remember listening. This is a Les Brown or Tony Robbins thing. One of them. I remember listening to them, and they were saying, well, people always talk about how much is enough, how much money is enough. Well, let's just replace how much money is enough with something else. Let's replace how much giving is enough. How much potential should you reach within yourself, and I think it's limitless. I think we should continue to evolve. As human beings, we want to evolve. We evolve or we die. And as business people, as business professionals, I think it's important to continue to evolve, continue to create value, and the amount of value we create is in direct proportion to the amount of money that we make. With these apartment communities that I'm buying with investors and sharing in the profits. Well, if I was still buying a single family home on my own, well, I'm creating a little bit of value with that single family home. I'm employing a property management company. I'm employing some vendors, some contractors, carpet people, etc. But it's on a smaller scale. Whereas whenever I buy a 250 unit apartment community, like I did last week with investors, well, we're putting in $1.7 million worth of renovations into this 250 unit apartment community. And think about all of the ripple effects within the Houston economy that's creating. And so by galvanizing my resources and being resourceful, I'm creating a whole lot of value. And as a result of creating that value, I can give back. And I give back in many ways. I'm a board member of Junior Achievement in Cincinnati. I'm a board member for Texas Tech. And I have a scholarship that I give out every year for a Texas Tech student to visit New York City. And I've done this for the last 3 years, to visit New York City and tour ad agencies for the week, and then and get exposure to it, and ultimately with the goal of hopefully having them get a job out of school in New York City. And I have a couple other things too, but I think that's the mentality I have. So I'm going in with a pure heart and pure intentions, knowing that the more money I make, the more positive influence I can have on the world.
Totally like that a lot, especially because I assume they have to earn that scholarship in some way, shape, or form.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. Totally love that 100%. So, and at the end of the day, money it's like a scorekeeper more than anything. It doesn't have to have any sort of emotional anything attached to it. And I think as you guys have continually listened through these episodes with these individuals, you're hearing some very common themes. So hopefully you're able to pick up on that, glean from it, take from it what you can, and continue to move forward. So I got a question for you. You mentioned apartment buildings and investors and this, we'll call it somewhat nebulous organization. What I want to know, and I'm sure someone's going to ask if I don't, what are the systems that have been critical to achieving that success? Say, if I'm starting today, what systems am I going to have to build? What people am I going to need in order to get to be able to create that kind of value in a 30-day period?
Well, in order to buy an apartment community with investors, this is going to be like a newsflash, but you need a apartment community and you need investors. So you basically need those two things. You bring them together and you buy something. But before you do that, you've got to know what the heck you're doing, how to underwrite deals, how to structure deals, and how to speak to investors. But really, it boils down to knowing where to find the deals. And so basically, talking through or learning about all the different ways to find deals through cold calling. I interviewed a gentleman named Juan recently on my show, and he's closed on $26 million worth of multifamily communities in the last 2 years. And 8 out of the 10 were found by cold calling owners. Simply driving for dollars and looking at different apartment communities. And by the way, the largest one was 150 some units. So you can do that on larger communities. So the systems would be identifying where you are, where's your knowledge gap right now in underwriting deals and finding motivated sellers and finding the money. And then filling those gaps based on what you need to do. But the outcome is pretty simple. It's the road to get there that you'll want to make sure that kind of where your strengths are and where you need help.
Indeed, but having that sober view of yourself, saying, you know what, you can't do it all. No matter how much you try. You know what, Joe? I bought QuickBooks, not once but twice, 2 consecutive years, thinking I was going to do all that work myself. Yeah. Anyway, needless to say, a CFO is helpful. What were you going to say?
I was going to say my brother has a company, and it's called Door Devil, and he's had this company for 8 years, and he was doing everything. That it's a company that basically there's a there's a reinforcement on your door frame, and you can't kick down the door if you put it in your door. So he was doing everything. From bookkeeping to sales, marketing, website, SEO, and last year it was last April he had a stroke. He's 44 years old. He had a stroke. It caused a freaking stroke. He's fine now. He's recovered. About 97% he's recovered because he was relatively young for a stroke. But the reason why he got a stroke, the doctor said it was a clot, like a cholesterol or a blood clot or something. But we're like, what causes that? Well, diet. He's a fit looking guy. It was stress. It was stress from doing things that he wasn't built to do and not reaching out to others. And he'll admit this, not reaching out to others for help. So it's not only life and death for your business, it can be life and death for you if you don't help, if you don't bring in help for things that you aren't good at, don't want to focus on, because life's too short to do stuff you don't care about.
Yeah, you got that right. Now, while we're speaking of the weaknesses and things, I'm assuming your path has been somewhat similar to mine, and you haven't batted 1,000. Everything that you've tried hasn't gone the way that you had hoped, and you have what we call these opportunities, these great opportunities for learning.
Character building experiences.
Yes, character building experiences. Let's call them that. Can you share with us some of the I guess what you would consider some of the largest mistakes or character building experiences that you've had, and how you've used those and turned those into advantages to help propel you forward?
Do we have another 45 minutes?
All right, let's just pick the top one and go for that.
Okay, all right. Yeah, well, I'd say number one that comes to mind is the fourth house that I bought. The first three were the model that I described earlier. They didn't need a lot of work, cash flowing, and I bought them at the right price. The fourth house, I'm in New York City at the time, and all my homes are in Texas. I live in Cincinnati now, but the fourth house, I wanted to get a little bit more creative. And I saw an opportunity, or so I thought. It'd be an opportunity. I got it from a wholesale dealer, and he said the house is $35,000 plus needs $5,000 in repairs. I just so happened at the time to have a $40,000 line of credit from American Airlines Credit Union, so I was like, "This is perfect. 35 plus 5 equals 40. I have 40. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to make the repairs. I'll manage it all remotely. This construction team that I'm going to hire, and that's it. It will cash flow. It will rent for $900. That's what the wholesaler is telling me. That's what I think it can go for. Well, and it was currently renting for $900. So fast forward to me purchasing the property and talking to the contractors, and then them saying there's no way we can do this for $5,000. I got multiple bids, needed about $15,000 to $20,000 worth of repairs. So that put me to $55,000 all in on the house. And then after it was all said and done, it rented for $795 instead of $900. So it rented for less. Somehow it rented for less with all these repairs, brand new kitchen, flooring. It was just a bad area. So the key is to make sure that the rent the rent that you're looking to achieve plus the repairs that you're looking to do are realistic and double and triple checked by people who know how to double and triple
with a side of mayo, please.
With the side of mayo and some mustard, yeah. Those numbers.
Yeah, I get you 100%. I think we've all made that mistake on various different levels and in different ways and orders of magnitude. Well, the good thing is it was only tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars that you got to learn that lesson with.
Oh yeah, and I definitely have applied that lesson towards the apartment communities that I've purchased. That was the last house that I bought. I sold it. So now I have three homes. The first three, and I sold that fourth one, the Ugly Duckling. It was just bad juju. So I wanted to get it out of my portfolio. But now with the apartments, I apply those lessons, and knock on wood, so far so good.
Yeah, totally understood. Makes perfect sense. So, as we wind down here, if you could speak to that person or persons who are striving, they're out there, they're thinking, is this possible? I'd like to replace my current, W-2, my job income, and or I really like to, aim for that $100,000 in a 30-day period. What would you say to that person who might feel like that? What we're talking about, it's a little still far out of their reach, but they still want to give it a shot.
Well, what I'd say is, what would you like to do? What do you want to do? What do you enjoy doing right now? If you don't know what you like to do, then what do you enjoy doing right now? Or if you don't know what you want to do, what do you enjoy doing right now? Because ultimately, that's what you're going to do really good at. That's where you're going to make your money. I think you can pretend and fake to do things and do okay and do well at certain things for a certain period of time. But ultimately, when you're going to be fulfilled is when you're doing things that you feel like you were put here on this earth to do. So that's the first step. The first step is to identify what you enjoy doing. And then the second step is to educate yourself in that area. And how are people making money? Who on Jay's show has made money doing what you enjoy doing? And then learn from that person. Study them, learn their case studies, and learn other people like them and learn their case studies, and just simply model after what they've done and how they got to where they're at. And then you'll get to where they're at. You'll exceed if you choose to exceed. It's just a matter of how you prioritize it in your life, how much time you want to spend towards it.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Now, if you can, share with us a little bit how someone can stalk you on the internet. I mean, track you down and listen to your great content too.
Well, you can stalk me at my mailing address. No, okay.
Right.
You can find my podcast. It's a daily podcast called Best Real Estate Investing Advice Ever. I've interviewed Barbara Corcoran, Robert Kiyosaki from Rich Dad Poor Dad. I've interviewed Jay. I've interviewed many successful real estate investors and entrepreneurs. That's just in iTunes, Best Real Estate Investing Advice Ever, or just search my name, Joe Fairless, in Google, and my website will come up, which, by the way, is called joefairless.com, Joe, Fairless.com.
Excellent. Well, I just wanted to thank you again for stopping by and sharing your wisdom and increasing the value of the Cashflow Diary audience.
Thanks a lot, Jay. Honored to be here.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean? That means you probably have another podcast to put in that rotation for you to listen to and to make that happen. Because how often do you get to speak to individuals and, more importantly, have them tell you what you need to do to reach goals that you may have thought previously impossible? Well, the goal with this entire series is to show you that it's possible and to introduce you to the people out there doing it and making it happen. But now it's up to you. You know what you need to do. It's been fun talking to you guys today, and I do look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.